They say it all began on a sweltering Thursday afternoon, the kind of day when the air itself feels heavy, when the soil cracks beneath bare feet, and even the birds are too tired to sing. That was the day little Amara, just 8 years old, chased a butterfly beyond her compound. She skipped past the narrow path behind the old village church, her laughter vanishing into the silence of the trees. No one noticed she was gone until it was too late. The first scream came from a boy fetching firewood. Villagers ran to the riverbank, but all they found were Amara's tiny sandals, one stuck deep in the mud, the other rocking gently on the calm, glassy surface of Uboku Waterside. The river looked still, almost asleep, but Amara was gone. 20 years later, Linda, at 28, carried her entire life in a faded Ganamusco bag, leaving behind the choking chaos of Abuja. She walked away from a boss who mistreated her, a boyfriend who disappeared after full wasted years, and friends who only remembered her when they wanted free wigs. Abuja is not for me. I will never look back, she muttered to herself, her spirit hardened, her heart craving a fresh beginning. Her destination was a quiet place, Uboku Waterside, a sleepy riverside community where life was cheap, calm, and untouched by city madness. Linda thought she had found peace, but no one told her that peace in Uboku had a price, hidden deep beneath the river's still waters. At first, Linda hustled. She sold provisions, fried akara by the roadside, and at night, when hunger gnawed at her, she even entertained men for a little extra cash. After a month of scraping, saving, and starving, she was ready to chase her dream, a salon of her own. But dreams in Uboku cost more than she had. The cheapest shop was twice her budget of 5,000 naira. Then came the whisper of temptation. Her only friend, Machi, leaned close one evening and said, "There is an abandoned building by the riverside. Nobody has entered it in 10 years. Lin's heart leaped. She didn't hesitate. She didn't ask why. She didn't wonder what 10 years of silence meant. She only screamed with joy. Finally, God has answered my prayers. The next morning, she ran to the building. The moment she stepped inside, her spirit stirred. The place was rotten cobwebs, thick as curtains, walls damp, air heavy with mildew. But Linda didn't care. She scrubbed and swept with fire in her veins until every corner was clean. 2 weeks later, her salon was born. She named it Linda's Heaven. But the villagers stared with wide, fearful eyes. They knew what she didn't, that no one, no business, no soul of her, lasted long by the river. At first, Linda waited with hope. She dressed her salon window with bright fabrics, sat outside every day waving at passersby, forcing a smile through the hunger pressing her belly. But no one came, not one woman, not even the curious children. "Am I cursed?" she whispered to Machi one night, her ribs sharp beneath her blouse. Machi sighed heavily. "It is the location, my dear. That place is not for business. I should never have told you about it. Please, leave before it swallows you." But Linda was stubborn. She believed in herself. She believed in second chances. She believed in the peace of the river, even when hunger forced her to suck on a cube of maji for dinner. Even when she tricked her body by soaking gari in cold river water and pretending it was ice cream, she stayed. The villagers whispered, "The river is cursed." But Linda laughed bitterly. "There are no curses, only hard work and faith." Until the night it rained, but the storm came suddenly. Thunder cracked like a whip across the sky. Rain hammered her roof until it trembled. Linda sat inside her salon, clutching a threadbare wrapper, when she heard it knock, knock, knock. Her breath caught. It was midnight. Who could be knocking? At her salon door. The knock was not loud. It was soft, deliberate, like fingertips brushing wood. Her heart thundered. Fear crawled across her skin. She whispered a prayer under her breath, crossed herself 3 times, and tiptoed to the door. When she opened it, her stomach turned to ice. A woman stood there, barefoot, soaked from head to toe. Water dripped from her long black hair, running down her face in streams. Her skin was pale, her eyes too dark, her presence too heavy for the small room. Without asking, the woman stepped inside and sat in Linda's plastic salon chair. Linda's voice shook. "Gee, good evening, please. What do you want?" The woman smiled faintly, but her lips never touched her eyes. "My name is Didi. I have come to make you rich." Linda froze. I don't understand. Where are you from? What do you mean?" The woman leaned forward. "I have heard your silent prayers. I have seen your tears. I will answer them. All I want from you is to sell my wigs. Sell them, keep the money, but never refuse them. Before Linda could reply, the woman stood, walked to the door, and stepped into the storm. Linda rushed after her only to see the woman walk calmly into the river. The water rose to embrace her like an old friend. In seconds, she was gone. Only her long hair glimmered before it disappeared beneath the surface. At dawn, Linda opened her salon door. Her heart nearly stopped. A black nylon bag sat on the floor. Her trembling fingers untied it. Inside lay wigs, ladgerous, unreal, almost glowing in the morning light. Bone straight, silky curls, bouncy waves. Wigs no poor village girl should have ever touched. She gasped. These must be the wigs Didi spoke about. But before fear could grip her, another knock came. This time it wasn't Didi. A young woman stood outside holding her phone. "Hello, are you the one doing hair here? I saw your salon on Instagram." Linda's mouth fell open. Instagram, she wasn't even online. Before she could respond, more women arrived. 2, 5, 10, by 9 o'clock. A line of strangers stretched across the riverside, and when Linda braided their hair, when she sold the first wigs, her life changed forever. That very day, Linda made over 900,000 naira. She sat on the floor in silence, staring at the money with wide, hollow eyes. From that morning onward, Linda's heaven was never empty. Every dawn, another black nylon bag appeared in front of her salon, always filled with new wigs, each one more dazzling than the last. Every day, strangers appeared at her door. Women came from neighboring towns, even leaving their jobs early because something whispered to them, pulling them to Linda's chair. Her hands moved like lightning, braiding, styling, selling, and with each wig sold, her pockets swelled. The villagers watched with suspicion. They had ignored her for weeks. Now they whispered among themselves, crossing themselves as they walked past her door. But Linda didn't care. Hunger was gone. Poverty was gone. She had money, fame, power. The wigs did more than make women beautiful. They changed lives. A jobless mother named Amy, who had begged for grants for a year with no success, wore one of Linda's wigs to a wedding. The very next morning, a foreign company sent her a $5,000 grant. Another woman, barren for 5 years, conceived just 2 days after buying a wig. A shy university girl named Bulma wore one of Linda's sleek black wigs to make a TikTok video. By sunrise, she had 1 million views and her first brand deal. Women whispered that Linda's wigs were not just hair, they were miracles. Linda's name spread like wildfire. She renovated her salon, bought new equipment, hired assistants, even opened an Instagram account, which grew like it was fueled by fire. When Machi asked how she had transformed overnight, Linda lied with a straight face. "My uncle in Canada sent me money. God has finally remembered me." But in the shadows something darker stirred. It began with small signs. Mama Alake, the puff-puff seller by the roadside, noticed her goats busy, and Ola refused to pass Linda's salon. They kicked and bleated until their necks strained, terrified of something unseen inside the shop. Then came Mama Alake's dream. She saw Linda braiding hair, but her customers were not women. They were shadows. Their hair grew like snakes, twisting endlessly, while the mirrors reflected not faces but rippling water. The next morning, she confronted Linda. "My child," Mama Olake said softly, her Bible pressed against her chest, "when God gives, it is slow and steady, but when the water gives, it drowns you with gifts, then pulls your feet down. Be careful." Linda smiled politely, but inside her stomach turned, because she knew. Each time she touched a new wig, her hands trembled like they no longer belonged to her. Then came the storm. Rain hammered the salon roof. Thunder split the skies, and lightning flashed against the swollen river. Linda sat alone, sipping tea to calm her nerves, but the voices in her dreams had returned. Watery whispers, faces without eyes, hair that moved on its own. She tried to bury her fear, but then knock, 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 knock. Her heart lurched. When she opened the door, Didi stood there, soaked and smiling faintly. "Do you like what you have become?" she asked, in a whisper that cut through the rain. Linda swallowed hard, then forced a smile. "Yes, I do." Didi stepped inside, carrying a golden box. She placed it gently on the table. "These wigs are special. They are for those who want sudden change. Sell them, and keep your place in this world." Linda knelt and opened the box. Her breath caught. The wigs inside glowed faintly, like candles trapped in strands of hair. One shimmered with purple flames at its edges, another swirled like mist, frozen in place. Her hands shook. I don't know if I should keep doing this. Didi's eyes flashed cold. Then reject it. But know this, when the river gives, it always takes something back. Refuse, and it will take more than wigs from you. Then, just as quickly, Didi vanished. Linda sat alone, trembling. She knew she had struck a bargain with something no longer human, but she also knew she could never go back. From the day Linda opened Didi's golden box, everything began to unravel. At first, the wigs sold faster than ever. Customers screamed with joy, posting their miracle transformations online. Her Instagram following passed 100,000 in a single week. But soon, blessings turned to blood. The first was Annie, the woman who had received a grant. She was found 3 days later, her body floating face down in the river, her wig still glued to her scalp. Then the barren woman who conceived, miscarried in the 7th month. Her husband swearing he saw wet footprints pacing their compound at midnight. And Bulma, the TikTok star, collapsed on stage during her first brand event. Witnesses said her hair began to slither like snakes before she died screaming. One by one, Linda's customers vanished, went mad, or were buried. Yet every morning, more women lined up at her salon drawn by something stronger than reason, begging for wigs even after the warnings spread. It was as if the wigs themselves were calling them. Linda tried to deny it, tried to count her money to drown the fear, but the river did not let her sleep. At night, her mirrors rippled like water. Faces stared back at her pale, hollow-eyed women with drenched hair. They whispered her name. Sometimes she woke up to find wet strands of hair on her pillow, though she never wore the wigs herself. Worst of all, her dreams replayed the same vision. She stood by Uboku Waterside. The river bubbled, and Amara, the little girl who vanished 20 years ago, rose from the water, holding her lost sandal. Tell them, the child's voice echoed. The wigs belong to the river, and the river is hungry. Terrified, Linda ran to Mama a lake one dawn. Mama, please, pray for me. I think I've done something terrible. The old woman looked deep into her eyes and said, You cannot carry darkness and ask light to bless it. What did you take from the river? Linda's lips trembled. She wanted to confess. She wanted to scream Didi's name, but before she could, a violent knock rattled the salon door. When she opened it, the salon was flooded with dozens of women, all clawing, screaming, demanding wigs. Some tore at each other's clothes. Some banged their heads on the mirrors. Some bled from their noses. It was no longer a salon. It was a shrine of madness. And in the middle of it all, Didi appeared. She no longer looked human. Her skin was scaled like wet fish. Her hair writhed like eels. Her smile was carved too wide across her face. You asked for success, and I gave it to you. You prayed for power, and now the world knows your name. But every miracle has a price. Linda dropped to her knees, weeping. Please, take the wigs back. Take the money. I don't want this anymore. Didi's voice turned to thunder. The river does not take back gifts. It only takes lives. Suddenly, the salon mirrors shattered. Water gushed out, flooding the floor. Screams filled the air as the women were dragged down, their wigs glowing like fireflies under the surface. Linda clawed at the door, but the water pulled at her ankles, her waist, her throat. She screamed until her voice broke. The last thing she saw before the water closed over her head was Amara, the missing girl, standing at the bank of the river, still holding her sandal, watching silently. The next morning, the villagers found Linda's salon emptied out. Her chairs were overturned, her mirrors cracked, her money soaked and shredded across the floor, and in the center of the room sat a single nylon bag. Inside lay a wig, jet black, dripping with water, its strands coiled like living things. No one touched it. They locked the building, sealed it with chains, and whispered the name Uboku Waterside with trembling lips. And from that day forward, no woman in the village ever wore a wig again, because everyone knew the river never forgets, and it always comes to collect.